Chair recognizes itself for its questions. The Counterterrorism Bureau, what is it supposed to do? Explain it to the average American, which I would suspect many Americans don't even know the Bureau exists. What's it supposed to do? What is the goal of the Counterterrorism Bureau?
Well, I would ground it in the overall goal being that the Bureau itself, along with the State Department, helps coordinate our overseas efforts to combat terrorist threats, those that may harm our foreign partners as well as the U.S. So their primary role is to provide assistance. One of the things that they emphasize is trying to build our foreign partners' capacity so they can address that threat.
So we give money to foreign countries to help them fight terrorism somehow.
Well,
is that what you mean by assistance?
Yeah, we give assistance in terms of technical assistance, so we may provide some training to help them sort of counter violent extremism, or for example, a good example would be the ATA program, the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, where we do fund training programs and some small types of equipment to allow them to sort of do investigative law enforcement type activities so they can sort of determine the results of a terrorist attack or things of that nature. We're trying to build up their skill sets, capacity to address the issue or to even prevent the issue before it happens.
And then the Bureau is supposed to evaluate that assistance.
Absolutely. It's critical, and we've said this before in many of our reports, that State Department, and in particular this Bureau, undertakes evaluations. The benefit of doing evaluations is that you can learn from those experiences and whether, where you put your assistance, is that a best practice? That's something that you can model in another region or another country. So definitely evaluations are critical. They should be done routinely, and you should learn lessons from those, and you should also take steps to, based on recommendations that come out of that, timely implement those recommendations.
To see if we're actually helping prevent terrorism, whether just give an example, hypothetical, the money, let's use money we give to a country, making sure it doesn't go into the pockets of corrupt officials, but it actually is working to train somebody to make sure that they can fight terrorism. And so we want them to evaluate all of these programs that they start up.
We definitely think it's critical that the State Department does evaluate these programs, and they established a policy initially in 2012 in response to some of our previous recommendations and concerns from the Congress to do so. They've updated that in 2015. They're expected to do somewhere from 2 to 4 in a 2-year window. This Bureau actually, I would compare them to other parts of the State Department, have actually done more than some of the other bureaus and offices within the State Department.
So we partner with 53 countries, correct?
Correct.
And how many of those countries has the Bureau evaluated the program or the assistance to those countries?
Well, I would highlight there were 2 ATA evaluations that were done.
Now, ATA, what does that mean?
The Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, where, as I mentioned earlier, we're providing assistance for particularly law enforcement individuals to combat terrorist threats.
Now, are those 2 assistance programs in 2 countries, or are those 2 programs that are spread across the 53 countries?
Well, it was not the 53. They've only done 2 of the 53. Algeria, I believe, is one, and I believe the other is Morocco. Is that correct? Morocco.
All right.
And Bangladesh.
No,
they haven't really done many in terms of countries.
We've done 2 out of 53.
Correct. Well, they've done 4, but two of them were ATA evaluations.
They've done 4 out of 53.
Correct.
So the other countries, the other 49 that we are giving some form of assistance to combat terrorism, we haven't, the Bureau hasn't evaluated whether we're doing a good job with that assistance or it's not a good job.
We're not aware of any evaluations since they have been a Bureau.
So why haven't they done that, according to your investigation?
That is something we hope to address in our final product. We have looked at plans. They've had some plans underway to do evaluations. They've reset some of those plans. One of the other things I'd like to point out, given that countering violent extremism is one of the priorities, one of the things we looked at, they've done no evaluations of the efforts to counter violent extremism. They've had some previous plans which they discontinued. We're hopeful that going forward, once they finalize their 2015 plans, that we'll get a better indication and be able to provide you with that information.
So the vast majority of the countries that we want to help fight terrorism overseas, we don't know what they're doing with the assistance because they haven't been evaluated.
Well, they have not been evaluated.
I didn't say that very tactfully, but we don't know what the assistance is doing because they haven't been evaluated. But in your study yet from the GAO, you haven't determined why they haven't done those evaluations, which I agree with you are vital.
Yeah, I mean, let me just distinguish a couple of a different point here, because one, they have done as I said earlier, with respect to some of the particular foreign assistance efforts, they have developed indicators and targets for those. So they do have data. Unfortunately, I can't disclose that because it's considered sensitive, but unclassified in terms of like the number of individuals trained. But independent evaluations, they've only done 4.
Well, they did 3 of them in 2012, and they did 1 in 2013. They haven't done any in 2014, haven't done any in 2015. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
So the question still lies, why haven't the evaluations been done? And the GAO is going to eventually address that and get that back to us?
We will hopefully drill down deeper on that and provide you with that in our final report in July, to the extent that the State Department is in a position to finalize its plans.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Sure.
Chair will yield to the ranking member, Mr. Keating from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.